Today we're going to talk about the top 10 results that happen when a seller stops maintaining the property during the purchase and sale agreement period. And ain't none of them good. Stick around. Let's go! Start with number 10 and work our way up to number 1. So number 10, the seller could be in default of their contract. Many purchase and sale agreements have a paragraph that call for the seller to continue maintaining the property in the ordinary course of business. And as the seller, you don't even want to begin to get into a discussion or argument about whether you're maintaining it properly or not. Just take good care of it and you can avoid that whole process, because that starts jumping into attorneys and law and dispute real quick. Number 9, you as the seller, if you don't maintain it during the contract period to save money and the buyer doesn't close, you're just left with a mess. And that's not going to be good. Now you're having to spend the money anyway, and probably more to fix the issues that occurred when you didn't maintain it. Number 8, the reputation of the property itself plummets when it's not maintained during the contract period, and in particular, if it doesn't close and you try to come back to market later on, it's really hard to overcome that stigma. Keep in mind, your listing broker talked to hundreds of buyers to get that property under contract. If it falls out of contract and you come back to market, or you go out of contract and come back to market months from now, all those same buyers are probably going to be approached by that broker or another broker if you choose a different broker, and now you're going to be faced with a stigma on that property. Everyone's going to know that it fell apart because you didn't maintain the property. Number 7, if that seller has a third-party management company maintaining the property, they may be in default with that third-party manager because many third-party manager contracts have a clause in their management contract that they need to be equipped with the funds and the ability to maintain the property. It makes their job infinitely harder to manage that asset for them if they're handcuffed in doing so. In addition, they may give you back the property or give that owner back the property because they don't want their reputations hurt in the community. Number 6, that seller's partners, investors, lenders, managers, and everyone else involved in the business may think twice about doing another deal with that seller if this is how the process goes. Number 5, if the existing seller's lender finds out of the maintenance issues going on the property or lack thereof, then the borrower could be in default with their lender. Remember, the lender doesn't want to receive back a property in the event of default that hasn't been maintained. That makes their job far more difficult to sell it on the back end and make themselves whole on the outstanding debt. I know that could be a more extreme example, but the fact of the matter is, if a seller is doing that during the most important period ever when they're trying to sell it, if that property doesn't close, that kind of behavior could easily continue and then catch ward with the lender. Number 4, the cost to maintain the asset during this small window of time, even if there are larger repairs that come up during that period, is a fraction of the deal. So why wouldn't that seller do it? Makes no sense. Number 3, the buyer's appraiser could bring the value down lower as a result of what they're seeing on the ground. If matters got bad enough and the appraisal came in lower, the buyer can't get the funds they need to close from the lender, and it just killed the deal. Number 2, the buyer's lender's walkthrough prior to closing could put that deal to jeopardy because they don't want to lend out money to their borrower if they know day one there's going to be lots of issues that throw off the financials and the returns and the reserves needed to maintain that property. And the number one reason the seller should never stop maintaining the asset during the PSA period is the killing of their own personal reputation. There are lots of people watching that seller operate. The buyer and all their investors and their attorneys and their lender and their due diligence team. The seller themselves and and their staff and their investors and their lender and their attorney, they're all watching how that seller operates during a critical period of that property's life. And if that gets messed up or not done right, these are folks who are going to spread that kind of word about the type of operator that seller is. It makes doing future transactions really difficult. Now listen, that's the top 10, and I know many of those examples are for the extreme end of completely doing no maintenance and nothing at all. The reality is, in the transacting I experience, is it's usually little smaller items that don't necessarily make or break a deal, but that more so affect the reputation of the seller. An air conditioning unit goes out. The grass isn't being mowed as often. Units aren't being turned or not being turned as well as they were prior to the marketing period. The pool isn't getting cleaned as often. Major roofing issues or repairs or leaks get pushed off. Termites are found in one of the units, and that gets pushed off. My point is, it's usually little things that can cause big ripples, because what it does is, to the buyer and their investors and their team, they start to think, if this person isn't doing those small things, what else am I missing? What else am I not finding? And it starts to make them feel very uncomfortable. As a broker, what I mostly experience in those rare instances when a seller decides not to maintain or repair during that period, obviously is financially motivated, but it's also a selfish thought. The thought usually is, well, Beau, if I replace those 3 air conditioners at $23,000, the buyer's gonna get to benefit from those units. I don't get anything. The problem with that level of thinking is true. You won't get anything in that moment for doing what's right, but I can tell you the cost of not doing it right is tremendous. I hope this video brought you some value, and if it did, please give it a like down below, a subscribe, and hit that notification bell right next to it, and you'll be made aware of my videos each week. See you guys in the next one.